What in the world just happened? I'm gonna be honest, I feel a little sick to my stomach. I'm in a dilemma, a pickle, so to speak. Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm really glad you're here. You know, in a recent video, I cut down a bunch of wildflowers using the brush mulcher, but now I've got the flail mower connected to the tractor, so I thought we'll cut some other flowers down using the flail mower. I planted this nice little triangular section here at the corner of the driveway, and it really was pretty all summer long. It's still pretty nice, but we've got a lot of brown and dead flowers. Some are still alive, but we've decided let's get ahead of this and just cut them down today. Mower down, mower down. What in the world just happened? Bad news, kids. Last time I greased up this attachment, I noticed that these universal joints on this knuckle were a little bit loose, but I thought, it'll probably be okay for now. And well, it wasn't. It just blew apart. And now the other end of this knuckle, that fell off somewhere. I need to find that and then see if we can get the parts to put this back together. Oh, there it is. Oh no. That's even worse news because the knuckle not only fell off, but it actually split in half, which means I need a new knuckle at best. Can you buy those, or do I have to buy a drive shaft? Well, this is going to turn into a project I wasn't expecting today. So what I'm going to do is to take off this drive shaft. You know what? This is the end that was loose. It was the other end that wasn't so bad. I think the end that wasn't bad is the one that broke. Okay. All right. So I don't know if something caused that drive shaft knuckle to break, or if it was just its time. I don't know, but I did put a lot of strain on that mower last week. I mowed a neighbor's field, and that wasn't so bad. It was like probably like a 3-4 acre field. And then as I finished up, I thought, let me just make this look nice and get a little closer to the fence. Turned out there was an old barbed wire fence that was down, and I wrapped that up around the flail mower, and it stopped dead. I mean, it was rough, and it wrapped that wire so tight I had to use my grinder to get the pieces out, and probably wrapped about 20 feet of barbed wire up around that thing. So, you know, maybe that caused a fracture or something. I don't know, but hopefully I'll be able to get parts, or worst case, I may have to replace the entire drive shaft. Well, there's lots of drive shafts. Lots of parts. For a round shaft, though. So there's lots of different size yokes, and there are metric and standard. I think I need to take mine apart and do some measuring. None of them are designed for this type of shaft. You've got square or round. So I'm thinking that maybe this had a bar stock coming out of it, and then the piece was connected to that, and it was pinned through there. Maybe that's how it worked. I could take the easy way out and buy an entire new drive shaft with both ends on it already, but that is $400, like $379. That's almost half what I paid for the whole flail mower. So even if I can fix this thing, I've got to buy a yoke for, looks like $40 at least, and then the bearings, or the universal joint U-joint bearings, are $45 a piece. There's 90, 100, I'm 120 in, plus I need to fabricate something to make it work, so that's going to take several hours. Should I just bite the bullet and buy that drive shaft? I'm in a dilemma, a pickle, so to speak. Not quite sure what to do. I'm just gonna do it. Just gonna buy the expensive one and be done with it. I'm gonna be honest, I feel a little sick to my stomach. I mean, that rung up at $400 for that piece. $400. And when I think about the cost of a piece of equipment, that drive shaft seems like a relatively minor part. But I mean, it's an important part, but as far as components go, it seems relatively minor. But then I thought, you know, for me to fabricate something, I'm going to have to run to the steel yard and get some round stock and make some parts work, and it would end up taking me a day job, maybe 2 days. This is going to be better. I'm going to probably have to cut the shaft to length, but I'm sure I'll never have to buy another one. But boy, that was my mistake. Make sure you take care of your stuff. Probably when I saw that loose bearing on that U-joint, if I had just taken the time to take that apart, put new bearings in it, I probably would have gotten away today with $80. But, well, remember, take care of your stuff, and when you see a problem, address it immediately. All right, let's see about this. A little long, but that will be nice. So I've got a couple ways I could address this. You can see here it's a little bit long by about probably 3 to 4 inches. I could take off the extender, and that might make this just short enough. But I think I want to make it long enough or short enough to work with the extender or without the extender, because I may at some point put it on a tractor without the pats system or without a quick hitch. So I think if I make it just short enough to work with the extender, and it'll work without it as well. Either way, I'm going to cut this shaft down a little bit. Now, trimming a drive shaft for an attachment seems complicated, and I used to think it was complicated, but it really isn't. Basically, the first thing you want to do is level your attachment with your tractor, meaning you want the PTO shaft of the tractor to be level with the shaft on the attachment. Because remember what we learned in school, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So you want that to be a straight line. That way you'll know that's the shortest possible length that that shaft will be. When you raise the implement up, you're on an angle, so it extends the shaft. If you drop it below that level line, it's also extending the shaft. So the shortest point is that straight line between the two. So the first thing you have to do is figure out that distance. Now, attachments have different types of connectors or splines, but this one has a PTO spline that matches that of the tractor. Doesn't really matter. You want to find one point to measure from, and generally that point would be the connecting point of that drive shaft. Some have a hole that go through it, and you would measure from that hole. This has a grooved area, so we'll measure from this grooved area to the same grooved area on the back of the tractor. Here's the matching groove on the tractor PTO. Again, it doesn't matter as long as we have a point to measure from. So we're using that groove here and the groove on the implement to measure between these 2 points. We'll get that distance, and that will tell us the shortest distance that that shaft will be. And then we'll subtract a little bit for, to let it slide in and out better. All right, so between those 2 grooves, I've got 34.5 inches. So I've got the drive shaft laid out on the back of the mule here, a nice flat surface, and I have it completely collapsed. So now I want to measure between those same points on the drive shaft. It's a pin on this side and a pin on that side, which line up with those grooves on the tractor. I had 34.5 inches on the tractor. I've got 37 inches here, so I know I need to cut 2.5 inches off to get to my 34.5. But I want to cut it shorter than that for a very specific reason. So if you think about it, if I cut that drive shaft to the exact length that I need, technically that would work. The problem is when you connect the attachment to the tractor, you need additional tolerance to be able to retract that drive shaft back in order to get it between the PTO connection points. So it has to be another inch or 2 shorter so that I can retract it and extend it. So you can't have the drive shaft too long or it could bind or you wouldn't be able to get it on. You can't have it too short because when you raise the implement, you could actually pull it apart. But there's a lot of tolerance here, so that's not a problem. So we're going to take our measurement, which is what, 2.5 inches we need to cut off. I think we need to cut another 2 inches off of that, so we'll cut 4.5 inches off. So let's pull this apart and set our ends here. Now, what a lot of people get confused by is they tend to think that since I have to cut 4.5 inches off of this, they tend to think you have to split that in half and cut, 2 off this one, 2 off this one. No, it's whatever the distance is. If you need to cut 4 inches off, you cut 4 inches off each side. If you need to cut 5 inches off, you cut 5 off each side. You don't have to do any tricky math or anything like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is mark the shield so I can cut that back first. And then we'll cut the same distance off of the metal part of the shaft. Last time I did this, I used my reciprocating saw, and I went through quite a few blades. So I'm going to go back to trying to use my grinder with a cutoff wheel. Got a brand new cutoff wheel here. First, I'm just going to cut the plastic shielding. First, I'm going to get a battery. we'll do the same thing to the other side. Now I'll just add a little more grease. I'll slide it back together. Really just has to go on this side. Okay. Now we put the attachment side on. Then say a little prayer and hook up this side. See, now I can retract it back far enough. There we have it. We're in. Let's give it a shot. Awesome. By the way, if you're not familiar with how a flail mower works, underneath here we've got like 100 of these cutters, and you can get a Y-shaped cutter. These are called duckfoot cutters. You can get forged metal hammer blades, and those spin around at a high rate of speed and basically cut anything in its path. But you can see they swing out of the way, so if they hit rocks or debris, they'll swing out of the way, and that's why these are used for more of a kind of a rough cut, although they do leave a pretty nice finish, better than that of a rotary mower, but not quite as good as a finish mower. So these are kind of the in-between, but they're really great for doing tall grass and brush and things like that. That's not too big. So $400 for that drive shaft was a tough pill to swallow, but in the end here, first of all, I'm done in just a couple of hours, and I have a plastic safety shield, which I did not have before, so now I'm safer than I was. It's a more robust drive shaft than what it had, so it's stronger and should last longer. And it also has the nice push pin connector. There was another option there that I could have gotten cheaper. It was a lighter weight drive shaft, but I had those dumb, pull push connectors where you have to pull this collar back and push the drive shaft forward. I hate those things. So this has the push button connectors, which are much nicer. So yeah, I could have found a way to make the other one work. I could have saved maybe a couple $100 in the end, but now I'm done. It's done right. It'll last. And I'm $400 poorer than I was this morning. Well, let's cut the rest of those flowers. Well, fall is officially here and our flowers are officially gone, but we had a great time growing them this summer and it was really nice to see all the color. So I hope you enjoyed that as well. What an unexpected repair I had today. I hope you either learned something from that or was a little bit entertained by it, but these things happen, and that's just how it goes. So if you like this video, if you would click that thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. If you've not yet subscribed to the channel, I invite you to join me. And as always, I look forward to seeing you next time. What do you think, Irma? All the flowers are gone. Look how big she is. Still has a little bit more growing to do. But man, she sheds like mad. But that's better than having to shear her. You're a good girl.